Stop acting like their dad. That's how it started. Not with a fight, but a sentence that cut cleaner than any knife in the kitchen. The rain outside slammed against the window, hard and steady, like applause for the moment my family stopped being mine. Maddie's eyes never left her phone. Rachel's fork hit the plate, a sharp, metallic warning. I sat there, pretending water on my glass was just condensation, not the weight of everything dripping away. The house was still, yet I could hear the sound of something breaking, quietly, inside my chest. That night I opened my notebook and wrote one line. Day 1, I stopped trying. If you've ever felt invisible at your own table, you'll understand. Hit subscribe, stay with me, because this isn't just my story. It's every man who loved a family that forgot how to see him. I met Rachel at the Saturday market, steam from the coffee tents mixing with rain and cedar. She handed me a flyer for an art show, sleeves shoved up, smile held together with tired grace. I asked about the beans. She pointed. I pretended I hadn't already tried them. Her number landed on the back of the paper, ink pressed hard, like she didn't trust the future to keep it. We started small. Coffee, then dinners. Target runs where our receipts curled together in the same bag. Maddie kept her hood up. Lily asked if I liked cartoons. I said yes to anything that made her laugh. Late love doesn't explode. It warms. It felt like a porch light that someone remembered to leave on. I proposed with a cheap ring and clean words, not saving anyone, just building a place to stand. I wasn't asking one person. I was asking 3. The yes was quiet, but it shook me. For a while, the house answered back. A shelf stayed level. A leak stopped. The girls learned where I kept the chargers. Hope came late, but it came. Tomorrow, the real work would start. Shelves, faucets, school nights, a life in motion. I told myself I could carry it. I told myself showing up would be enough. I didn't yet hear how loud silence can get. Year 1 held because routines do. I built shelves that didn't wobble, fixed the faucet that hissed, labeled the cereal bins because someone asked once and never again. Parent-teacher nights, I stood under bad lighting, program folded in my pocket. I read Lily the same story twice. She liked my voices. Maddie stayed polite from a distance. Fence posts set, gate closed. I kept showing up. Pancakes on Sundays, rides in the rain, chargers found, lunches packed, a jacket waiting by the door for the kid who'd forget. Showing up at dawn, showing up past dark, showing up when a cabinet hinge squealed and nobody clapped. That's the bargain men like me make. You steady the room until the room remembers you. But steadiness is easy to ignore. Thanks, without eye contact. Got it, instead of come with. The chair beside me kept its lightness, like it refused my weight. I told myself patience is love in work boots, and love would eventually look back. One night, loading the dishwasher, the truth slid in with the plates. I was reliable, and because I was reliable, I was invisible. The water drowned the thought, but it didn't take it. From the hallway, a fork clicked against a plate, sharp, metallic, final. Somewhere in the house, a screen lit a face blue, routine held. Something else started to slip. Rachel moved up fast in PR. New title, new clients, new deadlines that lived in our house. Her phone lit the room like a heartbeat you can't ignore. Blue, then blue again, then blue, until dinner got shorter than the grace we used to say. She ate with her inbox open. I ate with my jaw tight. Our Google calendars stacked like bad Tetris. Media prep, kid pickup, PTA, late call. I sent invites to hold a little space. Half of them came back, maybe. I kept the trains on time. Groceries, bills, batteries for remotes no one admits to losing. You become dependable, and dependable sounds a lot like background noise. The hum of the dishwasher, the AC kicking on, a man who keeps things from breaking. The blue light washed over her face while my words slid off it. 1 sec, she'd say, finger up, attention gone. I learned to nod at a hand. The girls adapted to the pace. We ate faster, spoke less, cleaned as we went. Little efficiency wins, little intimacy losses. The house didn't fight me, it simply forgot me. I told myself this is what grown men do, make themselves useful. Then I heard the thought I didn't want. When love turns into dependable, it gets treated as invisible. From the hallway came a single ping. She smiled at the screen. Dinner ended on time. Something else ended with it, and nobody penciled it in. Mom's husband. Maddie said it casual, like weather. She was telling a friend on speaker while tying her shoes. The words walked past me and didn't look back. Lily tugged my sleeve later, small voice steady. I want my real dad to take me this weekend. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Some answers don't need to be wrong to hurt. I did the dishes. The smell of soap sat heavy in the air, sharper than anything said at the table. Water ran loud, a clean, polite way to cover a man thinking. Behind me, chairs scraped, feet on stairs, doors shutting with the soft finality of people who live elsewhere even when they're home. My chair stayed tucked in. It always was. No one moved it because no one had to. Rachel stood near the counter, scrolling. I'll coordinate with Adam, she said, like logistics. I nodded to the sink. Okay. 2 letters. That was all the room I had. There's a special kind of quiet when your name doesn't fit anywhere. Not on the school forms, not in the stories told upstairs, not even in a sentence that needs you. I could feel the outline of me more than the man. Edges, no center. I stood there, like I didn't have a name. Upstairs, a fork clicked against a plate, sharp, metallic, final. The house kept moving. I realized I would have to too, or disappear standing up. I started spending nights in the garage. The door stuck on damp days. The concrete held the days cold like a grudge. My old radio sat on the bench, faceplate scratched, dial stiff. I cracked it open, grease under my nails, small screws lined up like soldiers who still believed in orders. The garage smelled like oil, metal, and a little freedom. Out here, nothing asked me to lower my voice. I turned the knob. Static first, then a ghost of music, then a preacher from some distant county arguing with the rain. I wiped my hands on a rag that used to be one of my t-shirts. The house behind the door made domestic sounds. Washer spinning, footsteps crossing, a laugh I couldn't place. I held still and waited for my name. It didn't come. Is this still home? I asked the tools, the walls, the single bulb that trembled in its socket. The radio hissed back. It felt honest. When you fix old things, they resist you. Then they give. People don't always do the second part. I tuned again, found a clear station, let it fill the small room until I could breathe. Out there, I was background noise. In here, even the static noticed me. At least the radio answers when I touch it. Tomorrow, I'll go back upstairs and try the morning again. Mornings, I made 2 coffees, 1 black for me. One the way Rachel used to like it, a little sweet, a little light. I set hers on the counter under the cabinet she opens first. It cooled without drama. Some routines don't fail, they fade. She came down in a blazer with sleep still on her face, phone awake before she was. She said to my morning, eyes on a subject line about a client who always emails too early. The calendar on the fridge had a new printout pinned over the old one, boxes crowded with little promises I wasn't part of. I packed lunches, lined them up, tucked a note into Lily's bag, and then took it out again. I couldn't decide if it helped or made it worse. I rinsed my mug, left hers where it always waited for her attention. It stared back at me like a small apology I couldn't afford to keep making. Outside, the street still smelled like wet tires and pine. Inside, my shoes felt loud. I left before anyone else was fully awake. The door clicked, and the house resumed its scrolling. In the truck, my phone stayed quiet. No missed calls, no "can you swing back?" Just me and the road and the kind of silence that doesn't argue. It erases. I perform a play with no audience. By lunch, the school app would ping, another reminder of where I fit, or don't. Parent Square pinged during dinner. PTA night moved, sign-ups open, we need volunteers. The kind of message that sounds like a request but reads like a test. Rachel skimmed it, thumb already hovering over the calendar. I'll handle it, she said, eyes still on her phone. I nodded, a small permission slip no one asked for. Across the table, Maddie watched TikTok with the volume off, face washed in blue like a fish tank. She didn't look up when I said her name. She didn't have to. More pings, carpool thread, Spirit Day reminder. I typed happy to help, then deleted it. The app language is polite, but it has undertones. Who belongs? Who's looped in? Who gets the credit for showing up? I'll handle it floats nice, lands hard. It's efficiency on paper, eviction in practice. The house kept moving, the phone kept breathing, and I learned new ways to disappear while standing still. I rinsed plates and lined up lunch containers like little soldiers waiting for orders that never come. The dishwasher hummed its reliable song. Rachel's calendar filled with boxes that touched but didn't connect. That's what we were. Boxes that touched. When people say, "I'll handle it," sometimes they mean, "I don't need you." I wiped the counter, turned, and saw it without quite seeing it. The shelf by the stairs felt wrong, lighter. Something important had been handled there too. The family photo was gone. The one from the beach, 4 shadows on wet sand, Lily gripping my hand like she meant it. In its place, blank space, clean as an eraser mark. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at nothing until nothing felt heavy. "Hey," I tried, light voice, careful tone. "Where's the picture?" Rachel glanced up, not defensive, not cruel, just busy. "Just cleaner look," she said, like she'd changed a font. Then she scrolled again. The blue glow put a little ocean back on her face. I nodded like the shelf had asked me a question. The wall looked freshly painted. Maybe it always did. I couldn't tell if I'd imagined us into that frame or if the frame had imagined us into a family. I touched the wood where the frame used to rest, felt the shallow dust line, proof something once lived there. The girls passed behind me, feet soft on the stairs, a quick joke I wasn't part of. My name didn't snag on anything as they moved by. Some silences bang. This one whispered, "We're editing you out, gently, for neatness." I didn't argue. You don't argue with a blank space. It says more than you can. The wall held its breath. So did I. Later that night, when the house went still, I found myself in the garage again, hands on the old radio, listening for anything that would put my voice back in a room. But that was the night the house stopped answering. I started keeping a notebook because the radio could only get me so far. In the garage, between the wrench set and a coffee can full of screws, I found a clean spiral and a pen that still believed in ink. First page, my hand leaned right, letters thin and nervous, like they weren't sure they were allowed to take up space. I titled it, "The House I Tried to Build." The words looked too proud for how small I felt. I wrote the weather first, rain mapped across the page, lines slanting like a roof we never finished. I listed the small things I did that no one noticed. Trash out, batteries replaced, the charger that magically appears, the lunches labeled. I wrote the names of the 3 people I love and the order they stopped hearing me. The pen warmed to my grip. The paper took it without arguing. I put the date at the top, a real one, the kind a lawyer would respect. I didn't dress anything up. I wrote the sentence I'd been circling. I write so I remember I existed here. I slid the notebook into a metal box and set it under the bench like a quiet alarm. Tomorrow, I told myself, I'll try inside the house again. I'll ask a gentle question and see if it lands. Maybe words on paper can make room for words out loud. I didn't know the words would outlive the room that made them. At breakfast, I tried for small and honest. "Hey, Lil," I said, setting her cup near the cereal she actually eats. "That art project? What are you drawing lately?" Before she answered, Rachel cut in, cheerful, already moving. "Don't make it a thing, Andrew. She's got it." Light voice, firm blade. Lily's eyes dropped to her spoon like it said everything she didn't want to. Maddie rolled her eyes without looking up, a practiced move. The blue light from her phone washed us all in the same temperature. The dishwasher clicked on, our house's favorite lullaby. Water rushed, hard and busy, filling the room with a sound that pretends to help. I could hear my own voice thin out under it, like it had learned to dodge traffic. "Just asking," I tried, softer. Rachel smiled at an email. There's a point where gentle gets mistaken for control. When that happens, silence becomes good manners. I took my plate to the sink. The soap smell rose up, clean and sharp, enough to scrub a thought before it formed. Lily stood, grabbed her backpack, then paused. For half a second, she almost said something. The machine kicked louder. She didn't. I wiped the counter clear and told myself to try later, try lighter, try less. In the reflection on the microwave, I saw the phone in Rachel's hand light up again. One new message, and a smile I hadn't seen in weeks. That smile would soon find a new address. That night I sat beside Rachel on the sofa, the kind of distance married people measure in inches. I let my shoulder find hers, soft, a test to see if the house still had room for us. She shifted like she didn't notice, like a breeze had moved the curtains. Her phone buzzed. "It's work," she said, eyes already there, thumb already moving. I nodded and tried to smile, the polite kind, the kind you use when the waiter forgets your order and you don't want trouble. I watched the screen light her face. It pulled a small smile from her she didn't offer me all week. Not big, not disloyal, just warm in a way I recognized and missed. My hand slid off her shoulder and found my own knee, as if gravity had its own opinion. The TV murmured. The room made appliance sounds. We were two people in the same weather, not in the same storm. I told myself not to make it a thing. Don't be needy. Don't be that guy. But the truth came anyway, small and exact. Sometimes cheating isn't bodies. It's confession sent to the wrong address. I got up like I'd remembered something in the garage, like I had a job only I could do. The hallway was dark, the air cooler. Upstairs, a door stood half open, blue light spilling like a secret. I paused there, listening for my name. It didn't come from the room I expected. I stopped outside Maddie's room because the blue wash of her phone cut a wedge into the hall. She didn't see me. Her voice was low, the practiced whisper of a teenager who's sure the house is deaf. "He's fine," she said into the speaker. A pause, a laugh that didn't reach anything. "Mom's husband, not my dad." My heart didn't break. It sank. Heavy, steady, hard to lift again. I took one step back without thinking, the floorboard knowing my weight better than the people who live here. I wasn't angry. I was cataloged. Her door was just open enough to show a sliver of her face, eyes tilted down, thumb scrolling, a universe in her hands that didn't include me. The room smelled like dry shampoo and charger heat. On her wall, a string of lights tried to be a constellation. I couldn't find myself in it. I thought of all the mornings I'd left early so the day would run smooth, all the nights I'd stood in the hallway whispering, "Sleep well," to a quiet that didn't answer. Maybe this was the answer. Clean, simple, unarguable. From downstairs, the dishwasher thumped to its final cycle, that same reliable hum. Rachel's phone buzzed again, 2 rooms away, and somehow right between us. The door edged in, blue light folding into a thinner blade. I stepped into the darker part of the hall and let the house subtract me. The sentence kept ringing. Not my dad. The truth wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It had the weight of a label that sticks. And once a label sticks, it starts to erase. Rachel ate late with her laptop open, one heel still on, hair pinned up like the day hadn't let go of her. "Exhausted," she sighed. Not to me, more to the inbox. I cleared plates we hadn't shared, wiped a table I mostly sat beside. My chair stayed cold. It always does when a person stops returning to it. The jazz playlist we used to let run at night, soft horns, warm rooms, hadn't played in weeks. I noticed it the way you notice a tooth you can't stop touching. The house felt louder without it, like quiet had teeth. She scrolled. I stacked. The clock put distance between minutes. "Need anything?" I asked, because that's what dependable does. "I'm good," she said, eyes down. The dishwasher started its familiar hum. It sounded like a stand-in for the conversation we weren't having. I stood there until standing felt strange, then shut the speaker off, a habit left from when music meant we wanted to be in the same room. The silence that dropped wasn't clean. It had weight. It made space for thoughts that were happier with a soundtrack. When the music stops, you can hear the crack you've been ignoring. I heard mine, thin, spidering under everything. The house breathed. Rachel typed. My chair stayed empty. I turned toward the hallway and the front door, listening for rain. If nothing else, the weather still answered. But the next storm wouldn't be outside. I texted something simple. "Walk in the rain tonight?" It was the smallest invitation I knew how to give, like tapping the glass to see if the fish is awake. The 3 dots blinked, disappeared, came back. "Busy," she wrote. No punctuation, no later. I stood by the coat rack, hand on the yellow rain jacket we bought last fall, the one she said made me look like I believed weather could be a friend. I put the jacket back on the hook. The roof started its steady percussion, soft at first, then organized, like a drummer who knows only one song. I tried to swallow the feeling before it found words. Out the window, porch light on wet concrete looked like a promise running thin. I told myself not to take it personally. Work is work. Kids are kids. Life is a crowded hallway. Then I noticed how even the small yeses were gone. The quick sure, the give me 10, the meet you at the door. Rain tapped each missing thing in order. I made tea I didn't want, stood in the doorway I couldn't cross without her, and listened to the street turn silver. My phone stayed face up, obedient, blank. Somewhere upstairs, a laugh tried to happen and gave up. A light flickered in the front pocket of her bag. Not my name. A light rain asks a simple question. Will you come outside? My invitation fell into the busy hole and didn't make a sound. I looked at the door. Tomorrow, I decided, I'd try smaller. Or not at all. That was the last promise I made to a closed door. Rachel laughed at something on her phone. Quick, unguarded, the kind of laugh that used to climb our stairs and light the rooms. It showed up like a bird at the window and then was gone. I was at the sink pretending to care about a stubborn pan. I watched the corner of her mouth stay lifted as her thumb moved. No sound, just that blue glow holding her face the way I used to. I thought about asking, "Who's that?" The question stood up in my throat and sat back down. She said, "Nothing," before I said anything. Reflex. Practice. The house made its usual cover noise. Fridge humming, heater sighing, the small machinery of a life that works on paper. I rinsed the pan until the water ran clear and tasted like nothing. Jealousy came in polite. No storm, no scene. Just a clean line in my head. Whoever's on the other end gets the part of her that isn't tired. I wiped my hands. She kept typing. The screen flashed, and there it was again. That light, private smile. That smile used to be mine. I stacked the pan, lined up the sponge, made everything neat enough to pass inspection. "I'll be in the garage," I said, like a weather report. She nodded without looking up. On my way down the hall, I tried to remember the last time I'd been the message, not the background. Soon, even my silence would sound like noise. The door closed easy. The silence did the rest. I started answering in single words. "Yep. Sure. Fine." Not because I was angry, because long sentences felt like putting furniture in a room nobody uses. I left for work early, before the house found its volume, and came back late enough to miss the debate about homework and who left the light on. My chair at the table stayed clean. It's amazing what doesn't gather crumbs when a person stops sitting there. Mornings got efficient. I folded the note I didn't write to Lily and slid it back in the drawer. I set my travel mug in the same ring on the counter and wiped it away like a footprint. Evenings I parked 2 houses down so the headlights wouldn't sweep the living room. Habit grows legs. The phone asked less of me. Fewer, "Can you swing by?" More calendar invites that didn't include my name. When the group text chimed for carpool, I typed, "I can," and deleted it. If I'm a ghost, I might as well be quiet. This is how men disappear without leaving. You keep the wheels straight, you drop your voice, you make your steps lighter than carpet. You perfect the art of being where no one has to move around you. The garage smelled like oil and a little mercy. I turned the radio on low and watched the red needle find a station. Outside, a screen lit a face blue. Inside, the chair stayed empty, spotless, waiting for a man who didn't need it anymore. Tomorrow I'd try saying even less and see if anyone noticed. They wouldn't. Not yet. But something else would. She said it in the hallway, arms crossed like a door. "You hover." I almost laughed. Sorry for being around. It came out light, the kind of joke that hopes to be forgiven on impact. She didn't smile. The word just sat there between us, heavy and official. I looked at my hands like they were guilty of proximity. "I'm not trying to make a thing," I said. It's a lot," she cut in. "Please." Polite blade. I nodded because nodding is what dependable men do when there's no safe answer. The house hummed its neutral sounds. Even the air wanted no part of it. I moved to the sofa like a man following instructions he didn't remember agreeing to. The cushion remembered a different weight, a version of me that didn't measure himself before sitting down. On the TV, a show we used to like looped through strangers loving each other loudly. My phone sat face up, blank. I scrolled nothing. She answered someone. The blue on her face looked calm. Mine probably looked like furniture. I tried again. Anything you need? I'm good. I said, okay, and it sounded exactly like goodbye. Not the door slam kind. The quiet kind you only hear when a room is done with you. I turned off the lamp. The house kept breathing without a hitch. I thought about walking upstairs, about saying goodnight to a name that doesn't land. I stood, and the hall waited to see which man I would be next. The answer was already forming, in someone else's inbox. I paused outside Lily's room, hand on the frame like that could count as permission. The door was cracked, a thin river of light cutting the hall floor into two pieces. I leaned toward the opening and kept my voice soft. Night, kiddo. The words went in like a paper airplane and stalled. No answer. Just the tiny sounds kids make when they're almost asleep. Page turning, a blanket tug. The quiet that comes after a day has finally let go. I didn't try again. You learn not to repeat yourself to walls. I eased the door in, slow, then stopped when the hinge breathed. The slice of light narrowed across my shoes. Somewhere down the hall, Rachel's keyboard tapped in a steady little rain. In the living room, the dishwasher changed gears, a machine doing what a man can't, wash something clean in an hour. Sleep well, I whispered to the paint, to the carpet, to the girl who might hear me later and not know it was me. The words felt decent and useless at the same time. I closed the door the last inch, careful like I was putting fragile things on a shelf. Back in the hallway, the dark came back honest. My shadow didn't touch anything important. I walked past my own empty chair and felt the shape of absence tighten. Downstairs, the garage waited with its radio and its mercy. I followed the cut of light toward the steps, holding on to the only room that still answered. In the garage, I opened the notebook and wrote it plain. Neglect is colder than hate. The pen left a track through a smudge of oil on my thumb. The page took the stain like evidence. I set the notebook aside and blew dust off the old radio, the kind with a red needle that moves like a hesitant apology. The dial stuck at first, then gave, static, a crack, a faraway voice arguing with the weather. I tightened one loose screw, cleaned a corroded contact, tried again. A station slid into focus, an old song from when I still thought love was a thing you could hold if you gripped it right. Horns soft, drums patient, a voice that didn't rush. The garage filled with it, and for a minute I recognized the man I used to be, the one who believed showing up would be seen, the one whose chair at the table knew his weight. I closed my eyes and let the chorus pass through me. Time split, the present smelling like oil and damp concrete, the past warm as a dashboard in July. I wasn't crying. I was remembering, which is slower and cuts deeper. The song ended the way good songs do, clean, no begging. The static returned, honest as winter. Upstairs, a door closed. The house rearranged itself without me. I wrote the date, shut the notebook, and listened to the silence after music, where the truth lives. It sounded exactly like the life I was still inside of. Maddie slid the pantry door too hard and rattled jars. "Do you know where my charger is?" she asked the room. I pointed to the catch-all drawer everyone pretends not to use. Left side, under the tape. She found it in 2 seconds, like I knew she would. "Thanks," she said to the air, eyes already on her phone. I nodded to the drawer. The moment passed like a receipt you don't need to keep. Little errands, quiet fixes, things that make a day easier. Those were my love letters. No one had to read them for them to count, I told myself. She stepped around me without breaking her scroll, the way water runs around a rock and forgets it was there. The charger cable uncoiled like a small permission. She left. The room didn't notice she'd been in it. "Need anything else?" I heard my mouth ask, that dependable mouth. "I'm good," she called back. 2 words, same signature. I stood there with the drawer open, looking at all the items I've relocated, repaired, refilled. A house has 100 ways to be helpful and none to be held. I closed it soft so the sound wouldn't announce the thought. Thank you doesn't need eye contact to cash. Upstairs, a laughter burst and clipped off, like a show skipping a scene. I wiped the counter and felt the day sorting me into the column where essentials go, useful, replaceable, unnamed. From the hallway, Parent Square pinged, Another ping in a language I was learning. We'll let you help if you disappear correctly. We were in the kitchen pretending to plan the week when Rachel said it like a weather report. Adam really understands the girls. I nodded because that's what a safe answer looks like. Small, neutral, unnoticeable. She didn't mean it as a knife. That didn't keep it from cutting. I stacked mail, squared the corners, found something to organize instead of myself. Upstairs, the bathroom mirror held a version of me I almost recognized, jaw tighter, eyes dulled by polite losses. I stood there too long, toothbrush idle, water running like I owed the house a utility. "Where'd you go?" I asked the man in the glass. He didn't blink. He looked like someone who had made himself useful until usefulness replaced him. The kind of man who stopped reaching first so he wouldn't have to watch his hand hang there. I dried my face and waited for the feeling to pass. It didn't. The mirror is honest in ways people aren't. It reflected a man who'd traded wanting for waiting, presence for permission. A man who had started saying, "It's fine," and almost meant it. Downstairs, a calendar reminder chimed. PTA, pickup, media prep, boxes touching without connecting. "Maybe we need a weekend," I said to the sink, to the mirror, to the little dignity still standing. Lake, 2 hours away, rods in the truck, nothing fancy. I practiced the ask in my head until it sounded harmless. I went down to try it out loud. "Let's get out to the lake Saturday," I said, casual, like offering gum. "Pack a cooler, fish a little, just us." Rachel didn't look up right away. The calendar got there first. "Schedule's packed," she said, and tapped 3 times to prove it. Maddie shook her head without pausing her scroll. Lily didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She tugged at a loose thread on her sleeve until it disappeared. "It's fine," I told the room. "Another time." I meant it the way people mean, take care when they won't see you again. I put the idea back where ideas go when they can't live here. In the garage, I wiped down the rods I'd cleaned anyway, slid them into tubes like I was putting bones away. The cooler lid clicked shut on nothing. Hope folds easy when it's wet. I stood in the doorway long enough for the house to forget I was standing there. Rachel added a logistics note. Adam can cover practice. A small, efficient mercy that landed wrong. The week rearranged around a man who wasn't me, and the living room kept breathing like it had always done it. Plans don't have to fail to die. They can just not be needed. I set the rods back on the shelf and listened. The house made its clean, busy sounds. Somewhere a notification lit a screen. Somewhere a laugh almost happened. The quiet between those things stretched. I felt it then, the shift I'd been naming around. Not peace, distance. I wrote the word on my tongue and didn't say it. The rain thickened until it sounded like the roof was taking a test. It might fail. I sat in the dark kitchen with the lights off, letting the house make its ordinary noises. The hum in the walls, the soft click of something settling, a pipe clearing its throat. It used to calm me, this proof that things worked. Tonight it felt like a checklist I wasn't on. I opened the notebook and watched my hand hesitate, then move. I wrote the sentence straight, no decoration. Silence used to be peace. Now it's distance. The words landed like a level on a crooked shelf, finally honest. I looked at them until they stopped blinking, until they became a label I couldn't peel off. Upstairs, a door closed with careful hands. My name didn't ride the air down the stairs. The phone on the counter glowed and went dark, a tide I didn't belong to. Somewhere in the garage, oil and dust remembered me better than the rooms I paid for. I poured a glass of water and didn't drink it. The rain pressed its case on the windows, steady, patient, right. I tried the old trick, tell yourself it's just a phase, but the kitchen knew better. So did the chair that never learned me. I called the quiet by its true name and felt the cut, not rage, not grief, distance, exact and growing. I closed the notebook and waited for the next thing to erase me. It didn't make me wait long. Parent Square pinged at 7:12 p.m., subject line tidy as a suit. I thumbed it open. Emergency contact update. The school had streamlined records. Under Lily's name, a clean list. Primary, Adam Cole. My line, Andrew Lane, struck through like a pencil mistake someone finally corrected. I didn't drop the phone. My chest did. The rain hit the glass like it wanted in. I read it again, slower, the way you read a verdict. The email tone was kind, bureaucratic, professional. Thanks for keeping our students safe. I stared at the part where safety no longer included me. It wasn't a shout, it was paperwork. I sat down because standing seemed presumptuous. The kitchen blurred at the edges, then sharpened into items I'd stocked, fixed, paid for. I could name every drawer by what it hid, and none by what it held for me. I put the phone face down, like it could unsay a sentence by going dark. I wanted to be angry. Anger would have been warmer. Instead, I felt the clean, hospital-cold feeling of being edited. The house went on breathing. Upstairs, feet crossed the hall. A voice asked for a charger. A text landed somewhere that wasn't my pocket. I wrote one line in the notebook, hand steady for once. I didn't leave first. I was erased first. The red dot on the app waited for more acknowledgments. I didn't give it one. Outside, the rain kept grating the windows. Inside, I learned how a life changes with a single strike-through. The Ring doorbell pinged like a doorbell for ghosts. I swiped, and there they were on the porch. Rachel and Adam, close enough to share weather, not touching, not needing to. She tucked hair behind her ear. He leaned in just enough to say, "I hear you," without making a promise. It was the easy body language of people who remember the same map. The mic didn't pick up words, only the rhythm. Her laugh lighter than I've earned in months, his nod slow, practiced. My finger hovered over the intercom and curled back like it had touched a stove. You don't interrupt a rescue you're not part of. You just watch. The camera caught small things. The way she shifted her weight toward him, how his shoulders softened like a door opening. Subtext did the heavy lifting. There are betrayals you can't screenshot, the kind that live between two faces that don't have to explain. The screen lit my kitchen in borrowed blue. I felt it in the hands first, the fine shake of a truth that doesn't need volume. I told myself facts. No hug, no kiss, nothing to indict. The verdict didn't change. Sometimes cheating isn't skin, it's timing. It's a shoulder offered exactly when home feels like paperwork. The feed timed out. The porch went back to rain. Upstairs, a calendar reminder chirped about an art show at school. I stared at the black screen and knew I'd go. People look at pictures when they can't trust words. School hallways smell like crayons and sanitizer, hope and cover-up. Parents stood in small, cheerful knots. I kept to the edge with a Starbucks cooling in my hand, the lid sweating like it wanted out. Lily's class had taped their drawings on butcher paper. My family. Stick figures bold and sure. Her picture had 3 people holding hands. Hair like her mother's, a taller figure that wasn't me, a smaller one with Lily's favorite shoes. Sky big, sun happy in the corner doing its permanent job. I counted again to be certain. 3. I swallowed and it scraped. A teacher said something bright. I nodded like I'd heard it. Next to me, a dad explained shading to his son. The cup in my hand turned into a prop I didn't know how to set down. I took a sip. It tasted like a sorry that forgot its words. I stood behind other parents and learned a lesson I should have known. Paper tells the truth kids don't argue with. Maybe I'd never been in the frame. Maybe I'd been penciled in and the eraser beat me here. Either way, the drawing had perfect clarity. No room for edits, no space to squeeze in one more hand. I stayed until the noise blurred into one long permission to leave. On my way out, I read the caption Lily wrote in block letters. Me, Mom, Dad. Clean, proud, complete. I was right there, and I was outside the frame. The coffee went cold. My throat went bitter. The bell rang for the next class like a kind of mercy. Her phone buzzed. Mine buzzed after it. A message slid into our thread that wasn't meant for me. You always understand me. No emoji, no padding, just clean comfort, already dressed for someone else. I stared long enough for the typing bubble to flicker. Die. Return. The text vanished, deleted, but the app left its small scar. Seen 8:14 p.m. She didn't follow up. No wrong chat, no my bad, no patch. The house held its breath like it wanted me to decide who I was going to be. I set my phone down the way you set down a hot pan, careful, quiet, pretending you didn't get burned. The kitchen light turned everything the color of apology. Somewhere in the hall, Lily asked about homework. Rachel answered from another room with a voice I recognized from the porch. I told myself facts. Nothing physical, nothing proven, nothing a lawyer could use. Then the fact that mattered: comfort has an address, and it isn't mine. For the first time, silence had a period. I rinsed my hands, dried them slow, felt the missing words gather like steam and disappear. The calendar said dinner was for the girls, the kind where we act like a committee. I would cook, I decided. I would clean. I would keep my voice level while the roles introduced themselves without me. By 8:30, plates were out, chairs in place. I turned the faucet on and let the water practice covering everything I didn't say. We called it a dinner for the kids. Adam sat at the table like a regular Tuesday. I took the sink, my station, hot water open, sleeves up. Plates clinked, knives tapped, a little theater about boundaries and best interests. Rachel started with logistics. About my daughter's attitude at school. She didn't mean the claim to sting, it just told the truth out loud. I stared into the suds and let the faucet roar. The stream gave us privacy from each other. If I turned it a notch higher, nobody had to hear me not joining in. The conversation did loops. Who's picking up? Who's meeting the counselor? Who understands what? When Adam spoke, the room leaned. When I did, no one needed the volume lowered. I looked at the bubbles stacking like empty speech. The sponge found a dull knife and made it clean. In the window, my reflection watched me work and didn't interrupt. Maddie pushed back from the table. Lily asked for ketchup, small crises, familiar choreography. I handed over what was needed without turning around. Adam thanked me. Rachel kept the meeting moving. The girls ate faster with two parents speaking fluent. The dishwater got loud enough to set the terms. The water assigned the roles better than any of us. I shut the tap, not because we were done, but because the point had been made. In the quiet that followed, chairs scraped, a calendar open-clicked, and we all pretended dinner had gone well. I wiped the counter and felt the line harden. I wasn't angry. I was surplus. The voicemail landed between calendar pings. A calm, cheerful voice. "Hi, confirming family therapy. Rachel, Adam, Maddie, Lily, Friday at 4. Then the polite click of a system proud of itself. My name didn't miss the list. It never made the list. I was in the garage, chair tilted back, eyes on the concrete ceiling that holds the days cold like a truth you can't soften. The message played again without being asked. I let it. The radio was off. Even static felt too personal. I pictured the waiting room. Soft chairs, water cooler, a box of tissues that won't run out. A place for hurt to get professional. I wanted to laugh, but the sound didn't have a room. I sat there, palms flat on my thighs, and let the phrase shape itself without decoration. Therapy, an acceptable way to exclude me. Clean, billable, kind on paper. The phone offered options. Press 1 to save, 2 to delete. I didn't press anything. The silence after the script was longer than it needed to be. Somewhere inside, a wire snapped and didn't make a noise. In the doorway, garage light cut a hard line across the floor. I stared at it like a path. When I stood, the chair sighed, the only witness I had. I walked back into the house I fund and haunt. Behind the sink, a small metal box sat under the counter where I keep receipts and things that matter. I knew what I'd do next. If conversation has no seat for me, I'll give her a page that can't talk back. She found the box before I meant her to. Metal cool in her hands, hinge stiff, lid up, empty. No notebook, no pages to argue with. On the kitchen table, where the light is honest, I'd left a brown envelope with her name written steady. When she saw it, her fingers shook the way a person's does when they meet the thing they've been dodging. I stayed in the doorway, not moving, not helping, like a witness who knows the truth is heavy and must be lifted alone. She slid a nail under the flap and opened it slow, as if the words inside might startle. Paper slid out. She read the first line without breathing. I stopped trying to be their father when you told me I wasn't. I never stopped loving the family I thought we could be. Her lips parted. The blue glow of the phone on the counter went soft, unimportant. She turned the page, ink thick where my hand pressed too hard, small domestic weather. Batteries replaced, chargers found, lunches labeled, dinners cleaned, chairs empty. Then the lines that don't blink. Silence used to be peace, now it's distance. And the other one I wrote like a scar. I didn't leave first. I was erased first. Her eyes shone without crying. That's a special pain, the kind you read. When she opened the envelope, the letter opened her. I saw it. The way her shoulders lost their armor, the way her mouth shaped my name and didn't send it. The house held still, waiting. Behind me, rain thickened. Between us, the truth took its seat. She read out loud without meaning to. I stopped trying to be their father when you told me I wasn't. Her breath hitched on stopped. The kitchen held a warm, honest yellow. Outside, rain pressed its gray face to the glass. The two lights didn't match. They never do when truth walks in. Her eyes went wet, not dramatic, just enough to blur ink that was meant to stay sharp. She turned the page. My lines were plain, workmanlike, the way I fix things. Batteries replaced, chargers found, lunches labeled, chairs empty. Then the sentence that always sits up straight. Silence used to be peace. Now it's distance. I watched it land in her, change shape, come back recognizable and new. She didn't look at me. She looked through me, the way a person looks at a mirror that finally stopped lying. My words did what my voice couldn't. They held still long enough to be believed. In that soft kitchen light, every sentence was a flashlight under a bed, nothing left to hide behind. Her mouth formed my name and didn't send it, a small surrender. The phone on the counter buzzed once, then respected the room. Rain kept grating the window. She kept reading, and the letter kept doing its job, turning paper into glass, and glass into consequence. My sentences had become a mirror. She saw herself. I saw what that cost. The pages pulled a reel of my life I hadn't known how to play. She read. The house answered in objects. My jacket still hung behind the door, shoulders set to my shape. It had been waiting longer than I had. The second coffee cup, hers, sat where I always leave it, a ring on the counter like a faded promise. In the garage, the radio coughed to life at 5 a.m., that thin old song stitching a man to a morning. On the shelf, the missing frame left its pale rectangle, a ghost of 4 people pretending to fit. In her hands, the thick pages, ink pressed hard where I needed the line to hold. She turned to the entry I wrote in one breath. I'm not leaving because I stopped loving you, Rachel. I'm leaving because love shouldn't have to beg for air. I hadn't planned the next thought. It arrived now and felt exact. When the water's gone, the fish doesn't negotiate. It leaves the bowl. I watched her shoulders loosen, not in relief, recognition. The kind that hurts clean. Every kept charger, every quiet chore, every swallowed question filed itself under one word I'd been avoiding. Oxygen. I closed my eyes and saw the house as a tank. Clear walls, no breath. The montage kept looping. Jacket, cup, radio, frame, pages. A life arranged like evidence. When she looked up, I was already somewhere past the decision. Not angry, not begging, just done asking for air that wasn't there. I knew what the next hour needed from me. I walked to the entryway where the keys live. The little family keychain, 4 tiny tags, hung from my ring like a memory that wouldn't take a hint. I slid it off. The metal caught, then let go. In my palm, it felt lighter than it should, the way a promise feels when it stops meaning anything. On the console table, I set the keychain down next to my wedding band. Metal on wood. A small sound, sharp and final. The house seemed to hold its breath. No speech, no scene, just objects doing what people won't, telling the truth without drama. My hand stayed there a second too long, like it wanted to take the weight back. I didn't. I stood up straighter than I have in months. I thought of all the ways I'd tried to stay useful, all the quiet edits that made me fit, all the rooms where my name had nowhere to land. Keeping these would be easier. It would also be a lie. Sometimes keeping it is betraying yourself, I said, not to anyone, just to the air that finally made room. I picked up my truck key and left the rest on the table to do their simple job. Witness. Behind me, a notification buzzed and died. Upstairs, a door clicked. I didn't look back. Some endings don't require a look, just a line you step over and don't return to. The house kept breathing. So did I. Cedar Creek Park was all wet leaves and low sky. the kind of gray that makes colors honest. Rachel stood by the path with my notebook against her chest like it could steady her. Wind pushed a few gold leaves across the trail. We didn't rush. "You were right about everything," she said. No defense, no spin, just those words, and the cost of them in her face. I held her eyes. "No," I answered. "I was wrong about one thing. I thought you didn't love me. You did. You just didn't know how." The sentence landed between us and stayed. She swallowed like it had edges. A runner passed. The creak made its small, steady sound. I remembered the porch light version of us, the warm kitchen version, the calendar version, the meeting version. None of them had room left for the man I kept trying to be. She opened the notebook to a page I knew by touch. "Don't go," almost left her mouth. Instead, she closed it and nodded. Tears held the way strong people do, tight, controlled, honest. I didn't reach for her, not because I was angry, because I was finished reaching. There's a difference. "Take care of them," I said, "and yourself." She nodded again, once, like a promise she'd have to fight for. Then I turned away. Not fast, not slow, just enough. Leaves crackled under my boots. The wind did the rest. I walked out of the frame I'd been standing outside of for a long time. I moved to a small place near the water, a second-story rental that smells like salt and old paint. The walls don't know me yet. The ocean does. It keeps a steady pulse against the shore, the one sound you don't have to earn. I kept the routine I could carry. 2 mugs on the counter at dawn. 1 black for me, 1 the way Rachel used to take it. Light, a little sweet. I set them side by side like a habit taking attendance. Steam rose. The room was quiet enough to hear it. I stood there with both cups, then poured hers gently down the sink. No anger, just a tidy goodbye you do with your hands. The drain took it without a speech. The ocean kept time outside, unbothered by human math. I walked the boardwalk before work, hood up, hands in pockets, letting the wind name what's over. There's relief in a town that isn't waiting for you to perform. The people here nod without questions. The grocery clerk doesn't know my history. She bags the same items, coffee, paper towels, batteries, like I'm building something simple and honest. Back home, the second mug leaves a faint ring. I wipe it clean and feel the truth of it. Same ritual, new meaning. What used to be a plea is now a blessing. Short, quiet, real. Some mornings I almost reach for my phone. Then the waves answer first. It's enough. Back at the house I left, Rachel read from my notebook at the kitchen table. Not every page, just the ones that hold. Batteries replaced, chargers found, lunches labeled, chairs empty. Maddie didn't snipe. She went still in a way I haven't seen since she was 10. Lily slid closer and leaned into her mother's shoulder, like she was remembering a shape they'd forgotten. Rachel's voice was steady until it wasn't. She found the line that always sits up straight and read it slow, like a truth you don't want to spill. You don't lose people all at once. You lose them in small silences. The room heard it. The room finally heard me. No one sobbed. It wasn't that kind of grief. It was the small, careful crying of people who just learned the cost of a habit. The dishwasher wasn't running. The phones were face down. For once, the house didn't cover the moment. It held it. Maddie asked, "Was he mad at us?" Rachel shook her head, eyes wet but clear. "He wanted air," she said. Lily nodded like she knew what that meant now. The 3 of them sat there with the letter between them, a little fire that didn't need flame. Some apologies don't have words yet. They show up as a hand on a shoulder, a quieter tone, a dinner made on purpose. In that kitchen, the silence changed keys. It stopped erasing. It started listening. And for the first time in a long time, their house said my name without saying it. She parked across the street from my new place. Small porch, cheap lamp, salt on the air. I saw her through the window only as a shape, hands in her coat, hair pulled back like she'd come to a decision, not a scene. She didn't knock. She didn't text. She just stood there looking at the light I leave on when the ocean goes gray. I walked past the window and my shadow crossed the shade. She caught it, head tilt, half smile, like seeing proof I was real and fine was enough. Tears brightened. Not broken, just honest. I stayed where I was. Some distances do the talking better than people can. The porch light hummed. The tide worked the shore. She touched the notebook against her chest the way you steady a thought with both hands. Her breath fogged once, drifted, disappeared. Acceptance has that look, soft, held, not a grab. After a minute, she turned back to the car. No drama, no goodbye, no last pitch to roll it all back. She sat for a second with her hands on the wheel, then pulled away slow, taillights bleeding down the block like a long exhale. I didn't follow. I didn't text. I let the house be what it is now. Quiet, small, mine. The lamp warmed the glass. The room felt earned. Sometimes love lets go and keeps its shape. That was the whole moment. That was the mercy in it. Back in Maple Ridge, Rachel pulled a box from the hall closet and hung the beach photo again. The four of us, shadows long in late sun, Lily's hand wrapped in mine like she meant it. She centered it above the kitchen shelf and wrote a small line under the frame in careful letters. Love doesn't end. It changes how it speaks. Maddie stepped close and didn't roll her eyes. Lily stood on a chair and leveled the frame with both palms like she was fixing more than a picture. The room took on a temperature I remembered. Warm without music, steady without speeches. Phones stayed face down. The dishwasher waited. Their voices dropped to that soft register people use when they're working on something that matters. Rachel made dinner without hurrying. She asked what they wanted and listened to the answers all the way through. Somewhere between the cutting board and the stove, the house started breathing right. Not because I walked in, because they turned toward each other. I wasn't there to see it, but I knew. You can tell when a home lets out its held air. The tone changes. The little clangs mean care again. A light left on feels like welcome, not obligation. They ate together. They didn't fix everything. They didn't have to. The frame stayed straight. The caption did its quiet work. And in that kitchen, the silence finally chose the right job, holding space instead of erasing names. I walked the shoreline before sunrise, hood up, hands deep, letting the wind clear rooms I can't go back to. The ocean keeps an honest beat. It doesn't ask me to talk. It asks me to stand and listen. I think of Maple Ridge rain, how it hammered the windows like news you already knew. I think of the empty chairs, light as if they never learned my weight. I think of the pages with oil on the edges, fingerprints pressed into sentences that finally told the truth without flinching. The waves break and settle like an old radio catching a station, then static, then the song again. I still make 2 coffees out of habit some mornings. One goes down the sink, no anger, just a decent goodbye. The keychain and the wedding band are where I left them, doing their small job. Witness. The house I live in now is quiet, but it doesn't erase. That's the difference. I keep walking until the sky lifts a shade and the water turns steel to silver. The past doesn't argue. It nods. The future doesn't promise. It gives me room. Here is the sentence I carried to the end and finally say out loud. I didn't stay silent to punish. I stayed silent to hear myself. The tide answers the way good answers do. Steady, enough. I turn back with my name intact.